All right, hey there everyone. This is another video lesson in the series of options trading bootcamp. This particular lesson will probably be a quicker one than the last several. I want to talk briefly just about some special unique type of spreads. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Well, specifically what I mean by that is a kind of a combination of some of these, some of these, some of these, some of the back spreads, some calendars, you might have condors, you might have butterflies, you might just have a little bit of everything in there. And the only way you can fully grasp and understand or follow along some of these more complicated ones, we are certainly well out of the beginner section into intermediate and advanced. You will potentially see the power that these options have. And specifically, I want just to show you what I'm referring to, because you can start out a position. Let's just say, for example, we want to start an iron condor, okay? So let's just say that we have sold an iron condor right here. We've got the 1090, 1080 on the put side. We're gonna roll up here and let's do, I don't know, let's say 1290, 1300 on the call side. And let's just say that we take in $1.35 credit, okay? So right off the bat, we have got a predetermined, we know what our risk amount is, we know what our target profit is, we know where our adjustment points are at. So you may be asking, why does this show that you're already up profit? Well, the market is closed right now. So when after hours, this white T+0 line is not always correct and accurate. So that's the reason right there. If we wanted to find out, a little bit more realistically what it would be at, it may be right around this area here, $1.05. But just say that this is how the position starts out. And it just immediately starts moving up, moves against us, and we find that we are down, 3 or 4 or 5% on a whole position. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to completely close this trade out and call it a day. It lends you many, many opportunities to adjust, to add more capital, to move positions around. And it may be something as simple as going in here and let's just say we moved up to, 1250. Well, then it may just be something as simple as coming in and let's just add a 1240 calendar, all right? And at that point in time, we don't know what the debit would be. It would probably be more than that. It may actually be less than that if the volatility was decreasing, but you'll see that it starts changing this shape of the expiration graph. And that doesn't necessarily bother me at all as long as I am keeping good control over this line right here, this T+0 line, okay? So when you start playing with different spreads that overlap one another, you really can create something along the lines. I'll just show you one thing in particular that is a very, very profitable strategy that involves selling a put credit spread on the downside. It involves selling a put call spread on the upside. And it involves, let's say if we did this 10 times, all right, this is the risk profile that it gives us. Well, now we can add more on the put side than we did on the call side. So we make this somewhat of an unbalanced condor, still an iron condor, but then look at what happens. You can come inside here and we can buy a strangle. And you might be saying, oh no, here we go, what is going on? And all I wanted to show you is now you can say, all right, well, if I have bought a strangle, let's say maybe we'll go in here at 1100. Well, now, maybe even go a little bit closer, 1120, maybe even 1130. Well, now you start changing the profile of your expiration graph by doing a couple of different things. You have made these wing widths unbalanced, you have added a strangle in the middle, and if you are uneasy with some of this sloping risk to the upside, well, it may be a matter of let's just go in here and maybe let's add an out of the money calendar. All right? How in the world would you keep track of all of that if you were having difficulty, right? If you were having difficulty managing just a simple debit or a simple credit spread. So you'll notice that these kinds of unique spreads that I refer to usually morph out of a simpler combo spread like an iron condor, or maybe a butterfly, or maybe a ratio spread, and then it turns into something to where now you manage it not so much as an individual spread, but more as an aggregate position with a lot of different legs overlapping one another. And the only way that you start getting confident and proficient at that is by trading all of these other ones that I've already been talking about. All right, you have got to fully understand and comprehend how they work individually before you start adding them on top of each other. Once that begins to happen, I think at that point, and typically it's about, maybe month 10 or 11, or it may be 3 years down the line, all of a sudden what happens is you begin to unlock many, many puzzle pieces and to see how powerful options and option trading truly becomes. So these spreads, these unique spreads that you start managing, they become very, very powerful. And I will say some of the best traders that I have had the pleasure of meeting trade these exclusively just by the Greeks. They don't even look at what is down here anymore. They say, okay, well, my delta might be getting too far out of whack. Well, then you know what? I'm going to make an adjustment based upon fixing delta without destroying theta. All right? And you do that by understanding and fully comprehending how all these other positions function. So some of these unique spreads you will learn just over time, listening to the blog, watching some of these videos over and over again, and just as I plan on discussing how to manage these more complex positions. But by month 10 here, you really should be focusing on continuing to practice the individual spreads, but then starting to experiment and play around with, okay, well, you know what? I remember hearing that I don't necessarily have to always close something up just because it's going against me. Perfect example will be, let's say that the market starts running up really hard against us, and this option that I took in a credit for 77 cents for, now all of a sudden I have to buy it back for $1.50. All right? Well, if I have to buy it back for $1.50, then, okay, well, what do you get to do? Well, then you can analyze a similar trade of your 1300, 1320, but you just push it farther out. So maybe at that point, the market's trended higher, so now you're 1360, 1380. And instead of selling 10 contracts, well, you sell 20 and you recover and you bring in $1.75. And you have made up for this loss in one simple roll. And that simple roll is executed by buying a Condor spread. Okay, so those are things that I really want you to practice on. I really want you to understand that these unique spreads are more of the aggregates of the individual spreads, and then that's when trading by the Greeks really becomes kind of the focus. All right, so thank you much. This was going to be a short one. I knew it would be. The next one will absolutely probably be, I think the next two are going to be the longest of this whole series. So get ready for those, because now you're getting ready to transition into your final couple of months of constructing a trade plan from start to finish, taking screenshots, writing notes, documenting trades, how you maintain the ongoing trade structures. And I'll work through a couple of examples on prior trades that I've done, and just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And then the last month obviously is going to be, once you've worked through all of this, you've had several months of consistent profits, then you're prepared to transition out of sim trading and paper money and onto live trading. When you make that transition, it's absolutely a whole new ball game all over again. So I think you'll find that that's a very, very exciting element. So, all right, thanks much for listening, and we'll have another one soon. Bye-bye.